During that hearing, they discussed his newly filed request to reopen his immigration case and request asylum in the United States.
Oh boy. Okay, so this Kilmar Ábrego Garcia case is getting rather interesting. If you are unaware, he was supposed to possibly be deported to Uganda. Well, now he is seeking asylum in the United States and also seeks a gag order towards the Trump administration.
And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute.
Well, wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted.
So basically, things like that. Ábrego's lawyers do not want the Trump administration to keep calling him an MS-13 gang member, human smuggler, all of the above, because according to his lawyers, it's going to affect his trial and create a bias towards Ábrego. So we're going to dig into all of this. We have a lot to cover. This is a developing story every single day. Now, before we start this video, make sure you guys please like the video. It's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel, but it also helps others see the videos as well, and people need to know what's going on with Ábrego Garcia, because either way, your taxpayer money will probably be paying for some of this.
They're trying to remain in the U.S. permanently as a Maryland judge rules that he must stay at least until October.
This morning, Maryland Judge Paulazini's held another hearing in Kilmar Ábrego Garcia's case, this one to set a briefing schedule in his bid to avoid getting deported to Uganda.
Okay, before we get to this gag order or seeking asylum in the United States, just so we are caught up, right now, Ábrego Garcia is being held by Homeland Security in Maryland. In fact, he was ordered to turn himself in, and he did. Now, at this point, a federal judge has ordered he is not allowed to be deported, and also, he's not allowed to currently be deported to Uganda. We will talk about why he might get deported to Uganda, why he might not get deported to Uganda, but this is currently the status. We are at a standstill, and his lawyers keep putting in for new motions, like the gag order and this.
During that hearing, they discussed his newly filed request to reopen his immigration case and request asylum in the United States. Now, here's something important to know about how immigration cases work in the U.S. Judge Paulazini's and all federal judges, they're a part of the federal judiciary, Article 3 of the Constitution. But in immigration cases decided by immigration judges and the Board of Immigration Appeals, those all sit within the executive branch, so the president. That means it will ultimately be an immigration judge that sits in the Department of Homeland Security, an executive agency, who will first decide whether to reopen Ábrego Garcia's immigration case, and if so, whether to grant asylum.
Okay, so first things first, it is very, very, very difficult to be approved for asylum. I cannot harp on that enough. Only 1 in 3 people are approved for asylum, but there's about 1 million people still waiting to be approved for their asylum. So, for Kilmar Ábrego Garcia to be approved for this asylum, it's going to be an uphill battle, because he forgot to do this already.
In 2019, an immigration judge said he would not likely succeed in claiming asylum because he didn't claim it within 1 year of entering the country illegally. DOJ lawyers told Judge Sini's that they expect the motion to reopen and the asylum claim process to take about 2 weeks.
Hey, real quick, if you haven't already, make sure to please subscribe to my channel so I can keep you guys up to date with this story. We have been following Kilmar since day one, from his trip down to El Salvador, coming back, and now he's in court, and I want to make sure our elected officials are held accountable, so please subscribe. And look, here's the thing. Either Kilmar didn't know he had to apply within a year, or he is not serious about wanting to seek asylum. Because again, the US has this awesome asylum program, where they really are trying to give people a second chance at life. However, the United States also knows there are people who try to take advantage of the asylum process. Only 1 in 3 people actually get approved for asylum, and currently, as I make this video, there are about 1 million people in a backlog still waiting to be approved.
Although Ábrego is entitled to appeal whatever decision comes out of that, which could extend how long it takes to resolve his claim. In order to get his case reopened, he needs to show a change in circumstances.
With the government claiming that he's an MS-13 gang member, he's at a higher risk of being tortured in El Salvador because of this claim that he's a gang member. And so that gives enough to reopen a case claiming material change of circumstances. There is a material change of circumstances from his grant of 2019 to now.
So look, Kilmar Ábrego Garcia is not special when it comes to the asylum seeking, because if you don't apply within a year, the US doesn't see you as being serious. But number two, he is currently being charged with human smuggling. So the US wants asylum seekers to be squeaky clean, so the US doesn't have to worry about you, being a bad person within the United States. So already Kilmar Ábrego Garcia has some other issues going on that would probably prevent him from becoming a qualified asylum seeker.
But the government did offer a plea deal, right, to go to Costa Rica in exchange for a guilty plea on human smuggling charges.
Yeah, I can't really talk to the plea negotiations since I don't represent him in his criminal defense matters. But the deportation system generally is a civil system. It's not supposed to be used to kind of twist someone's arm in the criminal justice system.
We will get to the gag order, but I want to talk about being deported to Uganda, because right now, Costa Rica is on the table. He is being offered, if you say you were guilty in the human smuggling, you can go to Costa Rica. And as of right now, Kilmar is saying no plea deal, which is why he's now currently being held by ICE, or Homeland Security, and Uganda is on the table.
Well, interestingly, just as recently as last week, we received, and the U.S. government received, an offer of refugee status for Mr. Ábrego Garcia from Costa Rica, which would have assured that he could live in Costa Rica, free from custody, and most importantly, again, guaranteed that he would not be redeported to El Salvador. So that's obviously we don't consider that justice. It's not what he wants, but it's certainly an acceptable outcome, right?
Please leave your comments down below if you would rather go to Costa Rica or Uganda. Leave them down below. I am very curious how you guys feel about this. Now look, I completely understand why from Kilmar's perspective he doesn't want to go to Costa Rica, because if he does that, he will admit he did a very bad crime like human smuggling, and he will never ever be able to come back to the United States if he has committed that crime. However, he's being offered really a chance that no other illegal immigrant almost gets ever. I can't think of anyone in the same shoes as Kilmar Ábrego Garcia. He is being allowed to have a status of refugee in Costa Rica. Basically, he will be set free and he can live with his family down in Costa Rica, but now it looks like Uganda is on the table. So the accusation is this: Uganda is being used as a tool to twist the arms of Kilmar Ábrego Garcia and to force him to go to Costa Rica, or to force him to say he's guilty. But look, now they're seeking asylum and they're also seeking gag orders.
So that's obviously we don't consider that justice. It's not what he wants, but it's certainly an acceptable outcome, right? So if the government's stated goal here is to get him out of the country as quickly as possible, why don't they send him to the country that he would already agree? We could work that out this week. Instead, they're beginning what's going to be a long knockdown, drag-out, protracted fight over whether they can deport him to Uganda. It just goes to show that what they're really doing here with the immigration process is punishing him, right? It's not about trying to get him out of the country quickly. It's about trying to punish him.
And this is why I made the comment at the beginning of my video, either way, your taxpayer money is paying for this, because currently he is being held by Homeland Security. However, the Trump administration, they're not allowed to deport him anywhere, let alone Uganda. So as of right now, if you are paying taxes, we are all paying for this drama, and it looks like at the minimum, Kilmar is going to be here until October, just so you know. That is the order from the judge.
Deportation is used to remove them from the country, but the notion that they're going to use which country someone is deported to as sort of a hammer to try to get them to do this, that, or the other thing, that's completely impermissible, and it's clearly what's happening here.
We know the DHS posted a video of your client being escorted by officers. There's another post calling him a Ugandan man. What is your response to these posts? Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if we had a government that takes
mysterious matters seriously, but clearly we don't.
We'll get back to Uganda in a second, but first, let's talk about these inflammatory statements. So, first things first, I think many of you are aware the Trump administration, they keep referring to Kilmar as like a woman beater, as an MS-13 gang member, as a bunch of other things with the implication that Kilmar is a criminal. I have said this before, whether you like it or not, Kilmar Ábrego Garcia technically does not have a criminal record. That's just the truth. But that is what his lawyers are arguing. He doesn't have a criminal record, even though there's evidence that suggests he could have one, but they're arguing he doesn't have one, so what the Trump administration is doing is really ruining the chances of Kilmar for having a fair trial.
Question about how did this massive smuggling operation go on for 9 years and no one ever picked up on it. What DOJ alleged on Friday indicates that Mr. Garcia is a major smuggler of children, of guns, of illegal migrants, of women who he apparently abused sometimes. And so, look, I would say this, Bill, this is a massive win for the Trump administration, the court of public opinion, because it really makes their case that he's not just the bad guy we were telling you about, he's even worse than we even realized. It makes the Democrats look like fools.
This is why the Trump administration keeps calling Kilmar Ábrego Garcia all of these things, because the public opinion, they can see the court documents, they can see the video. However, I just want to make this clear, there is no judge in the United States who has signed a piece of paper that says Kilmar Ábrego Garcia is a criminal. There just isn't. So because of this, you have the lawyers of Kilmar Ábrego Garcia arguing, look, the Trump admin, they have to stop saying what they're saying. I don't care about this evidence. I don't care about the videos. He's going to ruin the trial for my client. Over on the flip side, the prosecution, they're like, what are you talking about? We have the evidence, and the public perception really leans in favor with the Trump administration. Americans already want deportations, and now that we have a video where even the police had to call ICE and say, hey, we know there's a problem here and nothing got done, this is why the Trump administration has no problem where they keep calling Kilmar Ábrego Garcia all of these things.
Your view on all that, you got the sealed indictment charging him with alien smuggling, among other things. The Tennessee Highway Patrol trooper in 2022, on that body cam video, it seems rather apparent that not a lot of people in that car had identification, or maybe not even a driver's license, and they were allowed to proceed. Why, I don't know.
Here's the reality of the situation. The Trump administration knows the majority of Americans are on their side. Because at the end of the day, when Americans see favoritism, especially in an illegal immigrant, this is not something Americans like. It's just the truth. It's just a fact. The thing is this, how many of you have been pulled over because your rear light is out, or you accidentally left your high beams on? You can get pulled over for that. The majority of you probably have gotten a ticket for like the dumbest thing ever. But let alone somebody like Kilmar on body cam, you had all of these red flags and he was still let go. I also want to add this, when it comes to Tennessee Highway Patrol and the state troopers, I love you guys. Please don't take this as disrespect. You guys don't let anybody get out of anything. I mean, if your phone, it looks like you're on your phone, they'll still give you a ticket. If you're speeding a little bit, they'll give you a ticket. Again, not hating on the police. I love the police. I back the blue. But my point is this. In Tennessee, man, are they strict with your road laws. So to see Kilmar get out of this, I think a lot of Americans are not a fan of that.
It makes the Democrats look like fools. And secondly, legally speaking, it gets them out of a messy situation because they were going to have to contend with where he should be over that deportation issue, because the Supreme Court had said that the government needed to facilitate his release from custody in order to deal with his deportation, and had he not been, quote, inappropriately removed, there was no way they were going to avoid that. Now they have the best of both worlds. They've brought him back. They're going to try him on these terrible charges. And then they're going to deal with the deportation aspect once they get to that.
And this is where Kilmar Ábrego Garcia's team really threw a curveball. They were well aware, if they get Kilmar Ábrego Garcia released and back into the United States, still waiting trial for his human smuggling charges, it was always a risk he could be deported. Now, of course, we know the judge said you can't be deported, but nonetheless, we are in the middle of this battle now. Now it's where is he going to be deported? Because even if he doesn't get those human smuggling charges, he will still be deported. But the whole battle is, where will he be deported?
And they took him into custody within literally about 2 minutes of us getting up to the 6th floor. We weren't surprised, but it was very disappointing. There was no need for them to take him into custody. He was already on electronic monitoring, essentially the equivalent of house arrest. And the stated purpose for taking him into custody is now to deport him to Uganda. It's starting to become clear that they haven't even worked out a plan to do that yet. All they have is sort of a half-baked idea. So that's why we had to rush into court to ensure that, no deportation would take place to any country.
I have said this before, I do think Kilmar going to Uganda is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Not for the United States, but for Uganda. The United States holds all of the cards when it comes to negotiations. If Trump calls Uganda today and says, you will take Kilmar, they're probably going to take him. But Uganda made it very clear. They don't want anybody who's not of African descent, so Kilmar is not African, and they want people who see Africa as favorable. They want people who are not criminals. So when the Trump administration keeps referring to Kilmar as a criminal, Uganda is hearing this like, okay, we had an agreement. So that is my opinion on that, but I want to make it very clear. If the Trump admin wants to send Kilmar to whatever country they have an agreement with, the Trump administration can get it done. We've already seen this time and time again. But the question is, and this is coming from the judge and the lawyers, is the Trump administration taking advantage of the fact that it's Uganda and they know that Kilmar wouldn't want to go to Uganda. It's in Africa. It's away from all of his family. That is currently what's being fought in the courts. So that is the current status of this story. I really appreciate all of you guys. Leave your comments down below how you feel about all of this. God bless, and we'll see you all later.